Welcome to the Crypto Cartel. I'm your host, Rob Bruss.
And I'm Ed Anderson. If you're new to crypto, then the goal of today's show is to get you to pop that cherry once and for all. And if you've been in crypto for a while, we want you to open up the aperture of your thinking, to help you move forward in a much faster way than you already are.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that crypto is the alternative to the existing corrupt and failing financial system. And no matter what you think, it's here to stay. But how on earth do you get started in such a complicated space? The answer is one question, one podcast, and one video at a time. And do that until you've reached a level of comfort and confidence where you can take action and either begin your journey or accelerate it.
All right, Robbie, what do you say we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get started. Oh, g'day, Ed. How you doing, mate?
Hey, howdy, Rob. Say, how are the things in the land of the never-ending lockdowns going for you?
The land of never-ending lockdowns is now free. All the lockdowns are over here in Sydney, which is great. So life has returned to normal, and I'm really excited. What about you, mate? Has winter set in there for the Christmas break?
Yeah, finally we had a nice little snowfall today. I put out a little video of our first snowfall. I went out, took a little drive so you could see what a typical drive in Minnesota in the wintertime is like. I don't know, did you see it?
It was snowing properly. Yeah, properly. The snow that we have here in Australia is nothing like what you have there in the United States. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, that was really interesting for me to see that. And I'm thinking, man, Ed must be a good driver because that looks pretty slippery and icy and slick.
Yeah, everyone keeps asking me that. Oh, so you can drive in the snow? Well, yeah, I'm a Minnesotan. So yes, I can drive in the snow, but we're only at the beginning. It's going to get a lot more fun. Wait until we get, a month into this. Today, it actually warmed up a little bit. It got up to 18 degrees. Well, that's Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius.
Well, it's still pretty cold, mate. I think I'll have to return the favor for you and do a little skip around the beaches around where I live here on my push bike, so I don't have to go very far to show you the sunshine. One thing about Australia that a Canadian told me once that had moved here, he immigrated here. He said, the best thing about Australia is you don't have to shovel the sunshine. And I was like, really? Yeah, I never really thought of that because I've never had to shovel snow off the sidewalk or off the footpath or out of the driveway before. So that was a pretty interesting comparison and parallel, that's for sure.
You ever see that movie, Fargo?
No, I don't think I have, no.
Oh, you got to put that in your list, man. Fargo. I think the listeners, it won Best Picture, 1 year. And that movie was set in Minnesota.
Right.
Actually, the bulk of it was filmed in the Twin Cities here where I am. And it was set in the wintertime. So if you want to really see what winter in Minnesota is like, watch that movie. And there's a scene in there where the local cop is interviewing, a guy, and he's shoveling his sidewalk. And walks up. So is it cold enough for you? That's like a standard joke here. It's like a standard opening greeting in Minnesota. So is it cold enough for you? Anyway, I digress.
That's funny, man. That's funny. I'm going to have to check that one out. Hey, man, let's get into today's podcast. This is a really fun one. I know you and I have had this conversation a fair bit over the last 6 to 9 months or so. And I've had this conversation many times with other people. And I think it's high time that we press the record button on this. Crypto is a huge topic. And if you're new to this space, this might seem like everybody is an instant overnight billionaire who's driving a Lamborghini and has a mansion. People, they get in early, this thing rallies 500% overnight, they sell at the top and they make all of this money. But the truth is, that's the exception. And crypto is just like any other market. You gotta do your due diligence. You've got to understand how to get in and out of deals. But most of all, what you've got to understand is what can go wrong and what happens in the event that this goes sideways on you.
Let me ask you, Rob. Now, I know the answer to this, but would you mind telling the people out there, how you got started in crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you, Ed, I had a pretty solid background in trading. I don't have as many years under my belt as you, but I did okay out of it. But eventually I just got bored of sitting in front of my computer all day looking at charts. And what had happened to me, I had a bit of a realization, and I realized that I wasn't really day trading at all. What I was doing was I actually felt like I was guessing, and I was guessing whether the market would go up or it would go down, and I was placing a bet on that. And day trading is much, much more than that. And I don't mean to kind of to crap on it from a great height, so to speak, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just guessing, and it felt like I was gambling, because I don't feel like I had anything that was backing me. I didn't have a solid background in training or development. I hadn't done any courses. I watched a bunch of videos. I paid a little bit of money for a few courses, but in the scheme of things, it was just so rudimentary. But in 2017, I heard about this thing called Bitcoin, and because I was trading and I like complicated things, and I saw this, it looked really complicated, I decided to take a look at it. And I discovered really quickly that I could buy crypto at one exchange for a given price and sell it at another exchange for a much higher price. So back in the day, it's classic arbitrage trading, right, between those exchanges. And that really kind of set the frame for me of getting in and getting out and understanding exchanges and understanding how this thing actually works. But to be honest with you, it was the Wild West. And in some ways, it still is the Wild West. Sometimes you would buy crypto at an exchange and you'd have your position filled really quickly. It was no problem. The prices were all right. Then I would move it from that exchange to another exchange to go and offload that same crypto at a higher price. And then I'd put my sell order in and it'd just get stuck there because there was not enough volume and there just wasn't enough happening. And by the time the order got filled, a percentage of it got filled at that higher price. But then as my orders are getting filled, the price is coming down and I kind of lose out on that. So I had to develop some techniques to cover off on those potential losses. And over time, I learned to smooth those things out. But over time, at the same time, that opportunity went away. So you can't really do that anymore. You can't do arbitrage trading between exchanges anymore because they have a thing called a price oracle that sits in between them that makes sure the price is the same at all these exchanges. And that's a good thing because it stops all of the Wild West stuff going on, because what I was really doing was making money out of thin air. But I was lucky because at the start of 2017, I got in early at the start of the bull run, and I was doing that arbitrage trading virtually all year. And towards the end of the year, I cashed out the Bitcoin as it went off over the top. And then as it was coming back down, I looked at it and I thought, this thing's going to crash pretty hard. Don't try and catch the falling knife, so to speak. So I just closed out my position and I cashed out. And I did really well out of it. Like I made a big chunk of change out of it. And I just, I thought, you know what, that's enough. This Wild West stuff is enough. I don't want to do this arbitrage trading anymore. I got a nice chunk of change. And that's actually when I got into podcasting and when I started doing all the media stuff that I do these days. And I always kept one eye on the crypto market, but it wasn't until the start of this year, the start of 2021, that I really got back in. All of the lockdowns and you started off by asking about what's happening in lockdown central in the world here. We're here in Sydney, but the idiotic government here locked us down so hard and they took away every opportunity that both of my businesses had. I had to pivot into something. So I pivoted back into crypto. And when I did that, I was so glad that I did, because today I earn more money than both of those businesses combined. In fact, I earn like 3 or 4 times the amount of money than both of those businesses combined because of crypto. So all of that lockdown business and all the carry on and all the stress and the angst and all the worry about all of those things, I look at that and think, well, that was actually a blessing in disguise for me. And maybe I shouldn't have been doing those things anyway. Maybe I didn't really have proper businesses. All I was doing was winning a bit of business here and there, but I never had a real system that was really taking me somewhere. So when I got back into crypto, I was really happy. It felt like I came home, right? Because I love the complexity of it. And every day is it's a learning curve every day. You're reading something, you're learning something, you're watching a video. I'm talking to my mates. I'm talking to my brother all the time about it. It's really cool. I love that. I really, really enjoy that. And it felt, and it still feels like home for me. It's really cool. So when I discovered DeFi and all the things that happen in the DeFi space now, that's really accelerated my growth, and it's really helped me to cement my financial position even more. And every day I'm learning something, excuse me. I had a fella this morning say, hey, check out this opportunity, Rob. It's really good. I got in yesterday, put a couple $100 in, got a 55% return overnight. Check this out. no directional risk, nothing bad, but he's getting 55% overnight per day. And I'm like, well, if I put $1,000 in today, will I make $550 tomorrow? And he said, well, yeah, that's kind of how it's scaled out for me. So you can double your money pretty quickly. Is it risky? Is it easy to get in? Easy to get out? What's it look like? So I've been spending a bit of time this morning looking at that, going down the rabbit hole of that. And you've got to be careful because you end up shooting at all of the opportunities that are coming in front of you. And you just got to be careful because not all of them are opportunities. You've got to be really, really careful. And that's, I think, where people get a little bit overwhelmed with all of the things that happen in crypto. And that's why I decided to create the Crypto Cartel. I wanted people to understand and to have a place where they could come to find out more about crypto. But there's only so much that I can do. There's only so much bandwidth that I actually have as an individual. So the cartel is created so people can help each other. It's like a self-serve thing. There's a really friendly, happy community of people that are over there. You know, I've been in so many forums and so many discussions. And if you go to places like Reddit, there's a lot of ways that you can get help out over there. But there's also a lot of really nasty people in those places as well. And when you're trying to learn something and get started and onboard yourself with a new topic, especially as it relates to money, you want to have your questions answered, and you want to have them answered in a way that doesn't make you feel terrible or feel silly about asking these questions. And that's what the Crypto Cartel is. So that has been a real blessing as well, because there's several hundred people over there, and I know a lot of those people personally. I have these great conversations on a daily basis over there. It's been really, really empowering for me, and I've really enjoyed that. And look, there's plenty of places that you can go and learn about crypto online. There's hundreds of YouTubers out there that are going to help you to do that. But what you really need is you need a community of people that you can rely on and depend on, that you can trust. And you also need some people to hold your hand as well. It's one thing to learn it from YouTube and to try and click along as somebody's actually doing it, you know, stopping and starting a video. But it's different when somebody's sitting on a Zoom call with you and walking you through that process. So, you know, I learned crypto by doing. I didn't do a formal course or anything like that. I just was curious. I was interested in this thing. And whether you've been in this space for a short time or a long time, there's always something to learn. There's always something new there. And the Crypto Cartel kind of personifies all of that. It brings all of that together for me as well, because you learn by doing. There's a community of people. There's people you can depend on and trust, and there's people that are going to help you through the process as well. And hopefully, if you're new to this, then come on over to the cartel and join us to find out some more as well. And you can learn on the fly also. But you got to be curious. You really have to. What do you think, Ed? Tell me about your curiosity as it relates to crypto. Break it up here. I've got a bit more to say, but jump in.
Well, you know, like you, Rob, I have a background in trading. In fact, I was a trading instructor for many years. I actually designed, if not the first, one of the very first trading courses that was available to the public in the country in the late 90s. And this is before, you know, trading was popular and trading was well known. So I was right there in the thick. I saw the transition. I saw the new era. I helped to give birth to it. And, you know, so crypto is like a natural extension of that. Although I'm not really big on crypto trading, it is a different kind of an animal. So there are people who do trade cryptos and they do it successfully, and God bless them. But for me, they're not that easy to trade actively. Okay, you got to take it more of a macro look at them, but you can still apply trading principles to it. You just can't trade them the same way you would an equity. So for those of you out there who are already active traders in the stock market, and you think you're going to make an easy transition into trading cryptos, let me forewarn you, it's not the same animal. You're going to have to adjust your expectations when you're trading cryptos. But in reality, you know, markets are driven by just by human emotion, right? They're driven by fear and greed. So fundamentals, you know, don't make that much of a difference, because a lot of people get, you know, in trading, they get caught up in balance sheets and fundamental analysis and things that just really don't matter. And that's one of the things that I drive home to anybody I'm talking to about who's thinking about trading. And they ask, "Oh, what books should I read?" And they start rattling off all these books that they found at the local bookstore on fundamental analysis. I said, "Well, throw all those away. Matter of fact, or if I catch them in time, I can save them a lot of money, so they don't have to purchase those books." Because the only thing that moves anything in this world, whether it's a crypto or a stock or real estate, is buying pressure. Right? If there's more buyers than sellers, it goes up. More sellers than buyers, it goes down. Why they're buying and selling, I don't really care so much. I just want to know that they are or that they aren't, and they be on the on the right side of the trade. So so in the reality, you're trading people, right? So you're trading fear and greed. And I'll also throw into that complacency. Those are the three emotions that rule the market. Now, they might, over a really long period of time, let's face it, they might capture a big swing. But, like crypto, people get into trading because they want to make money now. Okay, they're not looking 25 years out. If you're looking at 25 years out, most people are buying a mutual fund or an index or something. People who get into cryptos, they're looking for results. That's why, otherwise, that is, let's face it, that's the allure of crypto. Give me results. Now, that is why I don't really look at fundamentals in trading, and it's why I don't really look at crypto in that way either. In crypto, you can be drawn into the next greatest project that is going to save the world, right? But in reality, every new crypto project is going to solve the world's problems. Right? If you get into these projects with that attitude, then you're likely to be carved up, by fear and greed in the marketplace real quickly. You gotta treat this with the respect it deserves. Now, I've taken a really different approach that I know you have as well, Rob. And that rather than a traditional trading, what I do is I like to remove directional risk, because when I'm a trader, it's all about being on the right side of a trade, right? You want to be on the right side. You want to be with the direction. But with cryptos, I don't want to be exposed to directional risk. So if I can play a game of twos and threes, meaning I get a guaranteed 2x or a guaranteed 3x return on my money without exposure to any volatility or directional risk, then I will look a lot more closely at those. And why would I want to trade actively and try to pick a direction all the time when I don't have to? Now, this is the first filter that I use, and it stops me looking at opportunities and going down rabbit holes, and I just do a lot of due diligence. Okay, if the crypto project I'm looking at means buying some altcoin and holding it, then I generally don't look or spend any time trying to figure it out. I don't look at it and spend a lot of time figuring it out. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee 2 to 3x there, and there's directional risk. So that right there, out of the gate, is a non-starter for me. You need a filtering mechanism. And this is how I look at crypto and the thousands of opportunities that are there quickly without any confusion or bias, right? So the thing to remember in this space is that you're always learning, and it is very time consuming. But there really isn't any other way to be involved in this. You have to be willing to put in the time. You have to learn. Surround yourself with people who know things and learn from them. Your filters will speed things up for you, okay? But they won't save you. You just need to know that crypto is a big and wide topic. It is a bit like drinking out of a fire hose, right? But at some point, you'll need to dial in whatever works for you and become an expert in a given area. I mean, you and I know that the most effective thing you can do is make the trades come to you, right, Rob? If you know what you want, then you have the discipline and the patience and the confidence to let the trades come to you, and then that way you're in control. You say, I'm looking for this, and you wait for that to happen. So that's the whole idea here is predetermine what you're looking for, and don't worry about being an expert in every little thing that comes along. Okay, just find your little corners of the market that you like. Now, that might take a little bit of time, but that's how you're going to reduce your risk. And that's how you're going to increase your confidence. And now I'm starting to blow it, because this is a topic, man. This is dear to my heart. I will talk to a mailbox about this if it sits still long enough. So I apologize.
No, you're so right, Ed. You know, the opportunity that came into my messenger inbox earlier today, you know, that guy saying 55% or whatever it was, you know, it's an altcoin, and it's not one of the top 10 altcoins. And okay, sure, maybe there's some short-term upside to be had there. And, you know, you just got to look at how diversified you are and how much free capital that you've got in there. And there's some rules and some fundamentals that we'll talk about in the next segment. But you're 100% correct. You've got to find what it is that you like and what's stimulating to you. Otherwise, you're just going to go round and round in circles and chase your tail. And part of the reason that I think people do that is because they don't learn crypto in any sort of logical or chronological order. And they don't do it in bite-sized chunks either. They try and sit down and they listen to this person and listen to that person, and they talk to this guy and talk to that woman, and they're getting information from 50 different places, but none of the information that they're getting has context to the bit that they learnt before. It's all over the place, and it's very, very hard to put the puzzle together when you can't see the picture of what the puzzle actually is. So I really believe that the key to learning crypto and accelerating everything is to learn the things in order and get the foundations and the fundamentals in place. And you kind of talked about that a little bit, and I so unbelievably echo that. Part of the reason I created the Crypto Cartel was to create a place, an academy, a crypto academy, that would walk people through a process in a steady, methodical way that would help bring them up to speed to understand the key concept. And once those foundations are in place, you will have way more confidence to keep up with your learning and to find the things that are interesting to you. Because somebody might present a crypto opportunity to you, and you're like, I'm just not interested in that. That's just not I don't want to know about NFTs, yeah? I don't want to buy a JPEG image that I can download right now for $3,000 when I can get it for free right now when I go on Google Images. I don't want to talk about NFTs. I don't want to talk about digital land. I don't want to talk about these things that are going on that it's not that I don't understand them. I have no interest in them. But unless you understand the fundamentals of that, you'll end up down a rabbit hole going, why would someone pay $3,500 for a picture of an ape? What the hell? And it's a really confusing and in some ways confronting topic, because when you look at these things, you feel like you're being left behind. What am I missing here? Why aren't I understanding that? What is this? And part of the reason for those feelings and those emotions is because you haven't learned this information in the right order, and you haven't got a foundation or a fundamental piece. And that's why I created the Academy. The Academy doesn't tell you what to do or what to buy or how to get in or out of deals. What it does is it just gives you a baseline of information in a chronological order that will make sense to you. And once you take yourself through that training and those videos and you watch all the content that's out there, that will really help you to get a better baseline understanding. And what it does, in my view, what it does is anyone can learn this, right? It's not that hard. When you've got that foundation in place, there's no more excuses. And we say it all the time on this show that people will spend 2,500 or 3,000 hours per year going to a job that they absolutely hate, but they won't spend 10 or 20 hours going to an academy or buying an online course to learn how to do something that's going to free them from the thing that they actually hate doing. So you really have to allocate the time and the effort and the energy to learn these things. And in the process, you'll find these things that are really interesting to you that'll become apparent very, very quickly. But you also see the things that are just really strange to you and they're foreign and you don't want to know anything about it. And you have to experience that contrast when you're learning crypto. You have to do that, because what that will do is it'll eliminate all your excuses. And if you see an NFT of, the Bored Ape Sailing Club NFT over there, and you saw one for $300 because someone made a mistake, they didn't put an extra zero on it, which by the way happened the other day. My missus sent me a message saying, look, this guy bought one of those Bored Ape things for $3,000 when it actually should have been sold for $30,000. And remember, all these transactions are irreversible. That person made a mistake. Someone picked up something for 30 grand, for 3 grand. Those things happen all the time. that's just a little bit of serendipity that's going on there. But unless you're in that space and you understand what's going on and you understand why these things are happening, you're not going to be able to spot opportunities out there as well. And look, crypto is the single biggest opportunity in human history. Nothing has had a wider adoption or a faster uptake than blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies. And this is your opportunity to capitalize on that and to get the upside of it as we move into the brave new world of Internet 3.0. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a little break and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to the show. Okay, well, Rob, taking it one bite at a time to learn about crypto, I think we all agree makes sense. Nobody can really argue, with that point. And what we've really been discussing is the mindset around learning crypto and how to get that dialed in, actually, right? Just in practical terms, how do you dial that in? So let me ask you, Rob, how do you keep it all together so that you don't end up on a path, during the day, wasting time looking at things that aren't going to amount to anything?
Man, I have to say that all jokes aside, I end up on that path every day.
Okay.
I spent that time this morning looking at that deal at 55%. That's too good not to look at. But then you look at it, what you need is a filtering mechanism. And you kind of mentioned it before as well. So let me go into the detail of how I do that, and then maybe you can share yours as well. So first of all, you need a filtering mechanism. That's the very first thing. So, and the next thing you need to know what's interesting to you. And I've mentioned that a couple of times. And I use NFTs as the example to say, are you interested in NFTs? Because that's something that's a little bit difficult and abstract to wrap your brain around. A lot of people that are not in the crypto space are really scratching their heads trying to understand what NFT, a non-fungible, what? They don't even know I didn't know what the word fungible meant until I discovered what NFTs were. So it has this language and this vernacular about it. And then you're like, why would someone pay money for that? Like, and you don't own the copyright. And it's a really abstract thing to understand. So there's so many things in crypto. It's like investing in, different sectors are you interested in the energy sector? Are you interested in the finance sector? Are you interested in commodities, or are you interested in trading gold or silver or oil, or what is it you're trading in I'm not interested in trading commodities at all. I'm interested in the finance sector and tech stocks. That's what I want to know. So crypto is really no different in that sense. There's just different things in there that you can do. So first is the filtering mechanism, and second is understanding what it is that you're interested in. And third, I always ask myself this question, and it's this: does what I'm looking at align to my key goals and the reason for everything that I'm doing? So why the hell am I even doing this? Why am I even involved in crypto? Well, first of all, it's to make money. I've got to eat. I've got to put food on the table. And I've got to pay my bills. But then what? Well, then it's to build wealth. It's to create cash flow. It's to do all of those things. And when I got out of trading years ago, and I mentioned that at the top of this show, I didn't make a vow to myself, but I said to myself, I'm not going to go back to doing that. I don't want to do that again. And I don't want to get involved in anything to do with trading or anything to do with online stuff unless it has an element of recurring income. And if something doesn't have an element of recurring income, this is one of the first filtering mechanisms that I use, and I just stop looking. I just don't look at it. Someone says you should buy this coin or this token because it's at 0.1 of a cent and the price is going to go up 100x. I just go, that's nice. It just stops me from looking at it. Because in order to do that, I've got to understand the project. I've got to actually go and release some equity from somewhere else to go and swap it out for there and then put it in there and get it in a wallet. And then I've got to monitor it. And then it creates a whole lot of effort and work for me. But then I'm really speculating on the price. The price could go up, but it also could go down. So I'm playing with directional risk there. So if it doesn't have an element of recurring income in it, then I'm just not really going to look at it. So that's the first filter that I use. And it's not about not getting into trading, because trading can have recurring income in it if you're using trading bots and a bunch of other things. There's a bunch of services out there that will help you with that as well. So that filter of no recurring income stops me having conversations with people about the next big token or the next blockchain or the next project or the next wonderful thing that's going to save everybody on planet Earth, because I don't care about it. It's awesome. They're interesting to know about, but I'm not going to put my money into it because it has no recurring income. What you're asking me to do is to speculate on something, the same as the way you'd ask me to speculate. Hey, Rob, someone asked me the other day, hey, Rob, are you going to buy some Stripe shares? Are you going to buy some, oh gosh, someone called me, some random telemarketer called me and said, oh, we're a company that specializes in IPOs and we do this and we'll help you get ahead of the curve. We'll help you buy the stocks and shares before. I'm like, well, you're speculating on the price going up. The price might go down as well. And if I get in early, that's awesome. And I get the big upside of that, but that's just not what I want to do. I feel like I'm trying to guess and I'm guessing the future and I don't want to do that. If someone starts talking to me about mining, about nodes, about master nodes, or about staking or farming or pools or those types of things, then I'll listen because I can eliminate my directional risk and I get away from the bottom feeder type stuff of manual trading. So manual trading is fun to do and it's fun to learn and it's all of that stuff. And I'm not kind of dissing any of that, but why would you try and scalp out, small percentage points on a weekly basis when you can go over there and stake your tokens and get a 60% APR? In some cases, in some projects, you can go away and get thousands of percentage points in APYs where they're compounding the opportunity for yourself. So I just try and remove the element of speculating in what it is there. So if somebody's got trading bots and they've got a proven track record around those particular things, then I'll certainly look at that. But if somebody's talking about trading crypto, and as you said before, Ed, that's a very, very different animal to trading Forex or trading indices or commodities or something like that, because crypto is just a different animal. So the same things still apply. It's just same, but different. But I'd prefer, if you're going to look at something like that, you're doing that with a bot, because then I'm not looking for a deal all the time. The bot's doing the work for me. It takes the emotions out of it. So don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with trading and there's nothing wrong with doing any of that. But I just think that there's easier ways to make money in crypto. The one-off wins are great. And that's what trading kind of is. When you put the trade on, you're on the right side of the trade, bang, close it out. Even if you're on the wrong side of the trade, close it out, go again, get on the right side of the trade and solve that problem. If you've got good money management discipline, that can be a very profitable and a very useful thing to do. But the one-off wins and the one-off things like that are not something that I'm interested in. So it's really a twofold thought process that I use to help me define what it is that I'm trying to do and to define how I actually get in and out of deals. So, one thing that I ask myself all the time is, will whatever it is that I'm getting into supply significant enough cash flow that I can use to continue to grow the size of that holding? Or will I use the cash flow that I get from that deal and spin that off into something else, into some other opportunity? Or if the opportunity that I'm looking at seems a little bit risky, how will I get into that deal? Will I use the cash flow that I'm getting out of something that is paying me regularly, or will I have to unlock some equity? How do I look at that? Where am I going to get the money to tip into this? And then if it goes the way that I anticipate, meaning I get the upside of it, what am I going to do with the recurring income that I actually get? How am I going to get into the next deal? So I have this deal flow happening all the time, and I have these things that I'm going to get involved in. I'm going to tip in a bit more there. I'll grow the size of that position there. I'll do this. So the deal flow that I have really, that also eliminates me looking at all of these things that come in front of me and I go, oh, look at that one, bang, I want to shoot that target, or I want to shoot that target. Stops me doing all of those things because I look at those targets and I point my weapon at it and I'm like, yeah, you know what, that's pretty good. Yeah, you get some upside on that if you did it, but that doesn't align to the strategy I've got going on. So I tend not to, but I don't always kind of hold true to my own rules, because I do like to take a few risks here and there, but I try not to use capital. I try not to release capital that I've got tied up to get into other risky positions. I'd rather use the cash flow that capital gives to me to get into those positions. So what I'm trying to do is preserve the capital that I've got rather than grow the size of the actual holding. I'll use the cash flow there to put into something else to create more cash flow to maybe funnel back to something that's less risky. I also ask myself, do I even have the free equity available? Should you be doing that? Because everything looks like the greatest opportunity when you hear it for the first time. And that's always in your mind, right? And it is. They're all good. Every opportunity that comes in front of me is a good one. But do I actually have the money to do this? These are the questions that I'm asking myself, and all of this is happening really quickly. It's happening in real time. It's rapid fire. Where do I get the cash from? If it spins off the recurring income, where does it go? Where do I put it back? How do I pay that back? Where will I get this? Do I need to borrow? Blah, blah, blah. All of these questions that are happening. So there's a couple of layers there. The first one is there recurring income? And when I get the funds out of it, what am I going to do with it? So, beyond that process, it's actually pretty simple. They're just questions that I've learned to ask myself over the years. And the idea of this podcast and the idea of Ed and I sharing our knowledge and information here with you is to eliminate your excuses to not get into crypto. What we're doing here is we're sharing a lifetime's worth of experience with you and helping you to understand the decision-making process to help you to get involved in the biggest opportunity in human history, which is crypto. So look, knowing all of these things helps me to decide whether or not I should or I shouldn't be in a particular deal. And that really sort of accelerates everything for me. And I found this to be really good for my well-being, because it stops me going and shooting at everything all the time. And the other thing, I mentioned a couple of times that I love crypto because it's a continual process of education and learning something new. There's not a single day that's gone by in the last 9 months that I've been back in this that I haven't learned something new and I've gone, oh my God. And I think the amount of knowledge that I have is huge, but it's only like 1.1% of all the knowledge that's out there. So the more I'm involved in this, the more I realize I know nothing about this. And I know a lot about this. So that's a really humbling thing. And that's actually what motivates me and keeps me moving forward as well. One of the other things that I really use in my decision-making process is I spend a percentage of each part of my day reviewing and comparing where I am in relation to where I say that I think I'm going to be. So I've got detailed spreadsheets. I understand where all of my money is. I understand where it's all allocated. You can't keep that in your head. You need to keep that on some documents. You need to share that with some people that you care about. Something happens to you. I need to know how to access it to get in and out, the 2FAs, all of that stuff. But I spend a fair bit of time each day, probably an hour a day, looking at the granular detail of exactly how much free equity I've got. If I come across a deal, where would I unlock the equity from? Or do I have some USDT sitting over there, some USDC or some DAI or some other token, or have I got some free equity sitting over there to get in to a deal over there? And then when I get into a deal over there, then I've allocated more, which means, what percentage of my portfolio is looking like that. So it's about half of what I've got is used in working capital. About 30% of it is hodling and about 20% of it is in reserve. So I've only got 20% of it to actually go and tip into deals over there. And if I go and use that 20%, I need to go and fill it back up. So I need to pull the recurring income that I'm getting out of the working capital and put it back into that 20% over there because I've just used it. So I'm kind of feeding my portfolio like that. So that gives me the confidence that I need to make decisions. And if I look at something that's a bit speculative or a bit sketchy, then I've got the equity and the capital there to actually do it. And what it does is it stops me flip-flopping between deals, and it stops me flip-flopping on the decision-making process because I know I've got the equity available. I know what my decision-making process is. I understand that this particular thing aligns to what it is that I'm actually going to get involved in. So now I've got the equity and I've got the capital to actually get involved with it. So the reason I have all of that is because I've learned this over years of trading and just being in crypto last time, that sometimes in this space, speed is your friend, and you've got to move quickly, and you've got to, you can capitalize on that first mover advantage, and it does go to the moon, and you do get a 50 or 100x opportunity in something like that. So if you feel like speed is advantageous to you, then you need to have a percentage of your portfolio and free equity available to you to actually go and do it. But if you find yourself kind of typing away like a crazy person trying to work this out to try and get this because you feel like you're missing out, and then all of this, you suffer from this thing called get there-itis. You've got to get there. I've got to do this. I've got to get there no matter what. And I've got to make this happen no matter what. So if you find yourself suffering from get there-itis, maybe stop. Just kind of like down tools, step away from the desk, put your hands up, put your hands on your head, step away, because you're going to get yourself into trouble. I've missed a lot of deals because I've been too slow to get into these deals, but I've also seen those deals carve other people up because, as you said, Ed, it's people that are driving the market. It's fear and greed. Yeah. So the buyers and the sellers, they're driving the market, not the product or the commodity or the service or whatever the hell it is. The trader in me wants a quick win. And I like a quick win. The day trader in me wants that quick win. I want to make $1,000 before 10 o'clock in the morning and get the hell out and go and sit on the beach for the rest of the day. But I think I've kind of moved on from that and just eliminating the directional risk, having a structured way of thinking about how to get in and out of deals, how much equity is available, knowing exactly where the allocation is. That's really helped me to sleep at night. And I can wake up in the morning and feel comfortable about some of these positions. And I also understand that not everything that I get involved in wins. Got to be prepared to lose, but I never like to lose. And I never, ever want to lose money. And I don't want to play with money I can't afford to lose. I can't afford to lose 1 cent, not 1 cent. I can't afford it. And I don't want to lose it. But I understand that not every deal you get involved in is a winner, and not every deal you get involved in is a loser all the time. And if you can win more times than you can lose, then over time that actually scales out. But you've got to establish your mindset, and you have to do that properly. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do if you are unable to understand the way that your thought process works or the way that you go about these things. It can be a really tough thing. What about you, Ed? I know this is squarely in your wheelhouse, this mindset stuff. Why don't you share with the audience your experience?
I am just chopping at the bit. Listening to you, boy, sometimes I'm wondering if I'm sleeping and I'm just hearing my own thoughts being played back. No, very well done. I am going to show off my classical education here for a second. It was Aristotle who said that every student ought to surpass his teacher, because a teacher spends his lifetime gathering his knowledge and wisdom, and then he passes it on to his students efficiently and in a short period of time, right? Now, if you look at America's modern educational system, you have to wonder whether any of these teachers even know who Aristotle is. But that aside, I love your way about thinking about this. One of the biggest mistakes that I used to see as a trading instructor is people shooting from the hip, looking at the next hot thing, right? And jumping from one shiny object to the next shiny object, and never really coming up with a plan. Your plan is far more important than picking the right product, right? And of all the things I cannot promise you, so when I was a trading instructor, I used to tell my students that no matter what stock you plan to trade today, I promise you, I guarantee you that it's not going to be the best performer of the day. There's always something better that you could have been in. And that's just the way it is. You got to learn to live with it, okay? Don't worry about getting into every sweet-looking deal that comes along. You don't have to. If you have a plan, you know what you want, then you have filters, and if you know what you're looking for, then you can afford to be choosy. And it's okay if it's not going to make you, 50x by next week. That's not important. Now, you take those rules, okay, and you can amplify that by a factor of 1,000 with cryptos, okay? Every new blockchain project or token that comes along, it's about to save the world. And you gotta be in, and you better get in now, because if you don't, you're gonna miss it, and you're never gonna have another opportunity ever. That's the way it feels sometimes, right? And if you look closely at the websites of the particular product, it might be a really good product. Okay, it could. So you definitely should check things out. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get involved in it just because they say they're a hot deal. Don't disbelieve them. Go ahead and look into it. Check everything out. Now, it all comes down to what your rules are, right? What your strategies are. And now, if you people aren't detecting a theme here, let me kind of clue you in. It's all about having a plan, knowing what you want. And once you know what you like, and that could take a little time. We as teachers, with Rob and I as teachers, and with other members of the Crypto Cartel, and our objective is to shorten your learning curve, to help you get to that place faster. And you're going to hear, if you join the cartel, you're going to hear people talking about all sorts of different topics. Every little corner of the crypto industry is going to be talked about in some form or other inside of the Crypto Cartel. And you just have to be in there and put in the time. Now, all the presentations are always fun and interesting, so it's not like it's actual, homework. But so it all depends on your rules, right? You want to come up with your own strategies, and we'll help you find one that kind of fits you. Now, if you don't have those fundamental rules in place, then you are going to be shooting from the hip all the time. There really is absolutely no reason that you cannot establish these rules for yourself. It might take some time, and I promise you it's going to take some time. In trading, I call that finding your trading skin, right? And you just have to be in there. You got to battle a little bit. You got to take a little position in that guy and a little position in that guy, probably. And then you might come up with a few bruises here and there, but then you're going to have some winners here and there. After you've been at it for a while, you're going to form a critical eye for what you're looking at. And you're going to come up with your own way of assessing situations. So we don't want you flip-flopping from one shiny object to the next shiny object. The idea is eventually, whether you latch on to ideas that Rob and I give you, or someone else gives you, or something that you pick up at a cocktail party, but it rings true for you, it makes sense to you, whatever that is. Once you have your little rules, your little formulas that you're looking for to be in projects, then it's gonna be a time saver, right? You're not gonna be listening. So some guy brings up an idea, and you already know, you know what? I have no interest in that because I've looked at it before. I decided it wasn't for me. Okay, so you'll learn over the course of time to be a discerning consumer. As it will. You'll learn. You'll develop your own eye. Oh, that looks good. And you know what? You're going to be an expert in that little corner of the crypto market. Why? Because you put in the time to learn about that little corner of the crypto market. So you're going to be a little expert in that. Okay, so when I teach people how to trade now, I don't try to teach everything there is to know about trading. Okay, because let's say trade, it is a lifelong endeavor, the field of trading. And with crypto, it's probably 4 lifetimes. Okay, so don't even bother to learn everything. You want to settle in on something that you're looking for. Now, when I teach, I just teach 4 chart patterns, and that's it. That's why my manual is this thin. I'll show it to you next time in the next podcast. It's really small. It's only 19 pages. But my intent is not to teach you everything is to know. It's to teach you what you need to know to trade, and that's it. And then you're going to put your own stamp on it along the way. You're going to find your own trading skin. That will come with time. So it's critical that you learn how to read. Now I'm a technical analysis guy, right? I look at charts, right? So and there are a few patterns that I look for. So I think it is critical to learn some technical analysis, but again, you don't have to learn everything. Learn a few simple things to look for, all the time. Now, it is true that with cryptos, many times these projects are not very old, right? They're very young. Maybe they're just starting out. So the charts don't really do you any good. To have a nice, good chart pattern to read, you need some data behind it. If the product was launched last week, the charts aren't going to do you any real good. But if you're looking at a project that's been out there, if you're looking at Bitcoin and it's been out there for several years, okay, now you got some meat on the bones that you can use. So if it's a brand new product, technical analysis, and you got to rely on other things to make your decision. But if it has been around for a while, do yourself a favor, learn how to read charts, because charts are just little pictograms of human emotion. That's all they really are. And if you learn how to read the human emotion in those charts, it gives you a huge advantage over everyone else. Um, so if you're trying to
Can I
learn,
just jump in there, Ed,
yeah,
and just ask a question? Because you know, people get involved in crypto and they're like, oh, okay, I'm in crypto, this Bitcoin and Ethereum thing, but now we're talking about charts. Like, and I think, you know, it's unavoidable because when you're making a purchase, and over time you'll be at an exchange where you can just put your credit card number in and buy some crypto. But then if you want to sell that crypto, you've got to take it over to an exchange, and guess what's there? There's going to be charts there. And you're going to look at these charts and they're going to be hugely intimidating. And you're like, how the hell am I going to start with that? So that learning curve is like, it's so steep. It's like a hockey stick, that learning curve. What can somebody do to alleviate that for themselves? How can they make that learning curve a little bit shallower, easier?
Yeah. Well, listen, people will spend 50 hours a week, 50 weeks a year at jobs that they hate, right? That's a total of 2,500 hours a year doing something that sucks. You know, it's a rare person that will actually spend 10 hours a week for just 10 weeks learning crypto that could change your life forever. You know, yeah, you're going to have to put a little bit of work in, okay? I'm sorry, there's just no way around it. If you want to get into cryptos effectively, it's not as simple as just watching a guy on YouTube.
Come on, man. There has to be a shortcut.
Yeah.
There's not.
Everybody wants a shortcut. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, good luck to you. I Godspeed. I hope it works. But the fact is, you know, if you're doing that, I promise you, you're going to be jumping from one good idea to the next good idea. Okay. You're never going to get to that place where you have your little portfolio of things that you're looking for. This is what I want over here. But the reason why you know why you want those is because you put in the time to learn about them, right? So at the Crypto Cartel, we're trying to narrow your focus so that you're not all over the place learning things from all different places. You know, we try to do all the searching and funnel everything into one spot for you. It should be basically a one-stop shop for you of knowledge for you to draw upon. But having said that, you're still going to have to do some reading. You're going to have to put in some work. Sorry. Now, if you latch onto a guy or person that you trust and everything that he's saying rings true to you, it makes sense to you, that could help you. Well, it will help you get to that point much, much faster than you trying to do it all on your own. All right. So now look, I want to talk about
before you move on. I want to make a comment there and see what your thoughts are. Is I've done that a lot, and I've found people that I really like, and I resonate with those people, and I really connect with their personality, and particularly if they're in a public space, right? If they're on Instagram or they're on YouTube or they're out there in public, it takes a lot of effort to put something together, to write a script, to get in front of a camera, to record it, to edit it and put it up there and put it out there. You know, and sometimes people have no motivation other than they've got the skills, they've got the equipment, and they just do it. And you can't really see what they're getting out of it other than becoming the influencer and the follower. Sure, they might make a bit of money out of ads and things like that on YouTube and Instagram and things like that. But really, their core business is crypto and what it is that they do. And I've latched on, as you say. I think that's an accurate description because I see these people, and you've just got to be careful. That comes with a caveat, and don't make the mistake that I've made with doing that, is that when you do that, you end up in that echo chamber. You end up surrounding yourself with people that have got all the same opinion. So that person that you really like says something and you go, yeah, that really rings true. Yeah, I can see how that would work. Yeah, yeah. And then you read the comments in their thing and they're all saying the same thing because these people are feeling the same way about it. But I promise you, if you take that information and that idea, or just one idea from that one person that you really like, and you share it with a random friend or family member that's not into crypto, and you share that with them, they'll be like, what? And if you take it outside of that echo chamber, you'll get a slightly different perspective. So I think it's really, really important, as you say, Ed, to do your homework. You must do your research. Sure, definitely latch on to people. Definitely do that. Get inside those echo chambers. But once you're inside of there, just remember that you're in an echo chamber, and whatever you say, Whatever you say, that's the echo of what you say is coming right back at you like that. And that's a good place to be because it's good for your well-being and it's good for your mindset and your decision-making process, but it can also have a negative impact on you as well. And I have been bitten on the backside by that echo chamber before. So that's just a word of warning that I wanted to share there. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, well, I think a really good way to kind of read the tea leaves there when you are picking people to listen to is, are they speaking to you as an educator or are they promoting something? You know, that could be the first kind of filter you can put it through, whether to decide whether to listen to them or not. If they're promoting something, then they have an agenda, and what they're saying may be legitimate or not. And so just do a little extra due diligence before you proceed. If someone is speaking to you as an educator and they say, well, look at this pattern. If you look at this pattern, it means this. All right, well, that's kind of black and white, right? It's either true or it's not true. It's pretty binary. So, if you're listening to authority figures and they're teaching you things, okay, then look, I've got a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel. You have a bunch of videos on your, and our videos are with an educational bent in place, right? So our videos don't have agendas attached to them. We're generally trying to pass on knowledge to people. So
absolutely,
for me, that's the single biggest distinction when you're talking to people is just be a discerning consumer. Say, well, why is this guy telling me this? Is he promoting an agenda, or is he an educator? You know what I mean? So,
yeah, nice. Well said. I also like to look as well. One small thing that I would add there is, are they actually doing it themselves?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I see in YouTube a lot is people out there talking about the next greatest thing. And they're like, oh my God, I came across this thing. And they send it to their 30,000 subscribers. They create the video and they're doing all this. And if you listen very closely to it, they don't have the free capital or equity to get into it because they're not in it. What they're doing is they're saying that I came across this, come and check this out. Hey, everyone, this is worth taking a look at. Yeah, it's definitely worth taking a look at, and I'll make my own decisions about it. But I would be more inclined to listen or follow somebody that says, hey, this is worth taking a look at, and this is how I got into it. Stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'll show you how to get it from the exchange to your MetaMask and into this thing or whatever it is that they're doing. So they're the people that you actually want to follow, and they're the people to look out for as well. What they do is they eliminate all of your excuses for not getting involved in this. You don't want to be led up a garden path of, hey, this is a really good opportunity, you should check this out. You go and check it out, and then you're left scratching your head because it's too technical with the wallets or understanding how to get in and out or swapping this token for that token on some blockchain you've never used before. That can be really confusing for people. So look for people who are actually in these deals, and that will eliminate your excuses for not getting started in this thing that looks really good to you.
Yeah, I want to make a little personal connection there because now I have my own YouTube channel like you do, but mine's not very big. I've got about 2,300 subscribers. I don't mind telling the audience here. And so I don't have a large following, but they're very loyal following. But I've gotten those through a lot of videos and a lot of, but that's because my videos are educational, right? And I tried to find the clever way of blowing up, because I see these guys on YouTube promoting, what happens if Shiba goes to a penny, and in this clickbait stuff, right? And
it's tempting to actually create content like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody.
And so the titles are very sexy. So people say, "Oh, I can make $10 million with $100 in this guy in 2 weeks." So these videos, geez, they get like 100,000 videos in a day, 100,000 views, in a day. And I'm thinking, sometimes I'm thinking, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? But you gotta wonder.
Because you're a boring realist.
Yeah. So, and these guys are doing like 2 videos a day, and they come out. They're like 10 minutes long, but they're making some sweet money off of those. But you gotta. So there's an example of. Are they doing those videos for the benefit of people, to educate them, or is it just clickbait and they're making God knows how much money a month on their YouTube channel, and they may or may not actually be in that coin. So
yes, and yes, I think to all of it. Yes for the clickbait, yes for the views, yes for the ad revenue, and yeah, they probably got a little bit of money into it as well.
Yeah.
That's such an important point. Yeah. There's easy ways of actually doing this. I know I kind of interrupted you there. I'll let you finish your little bit of your script there.
Yeah. Okay. So circling back to the importance of putting the work in and studying things. There's really no excuse to learning some simple things about the blockchain and the crypto industry in general. And the idea of putting in 10 hours of work a week of studying for 10 weeks in order to learn crypto that could change your life. I mean, how many hours a week do you spend watching Everybody Loves Raymond reruns, on TV?
I would probably spend 10 hours a week watching those if they were on. Get them on Netflix for me, will you?
The point being, how much time you spend every week doing stupid things that are unproductive and they're not going to improve your life. But if you can learn about crypto, look, for example, if Bitcoin moves 20x here over the next 3 to 5 years, and you take just 5% of your net worth and buy and hold Bitcoin, you'll have 100% more than you do today. Right? Now, there's no excuse for not doing something as simple as that. Keeping that 5% in the bank for the next 3 to 5 years will ensure that it's going to do nothing. It's a guarantee it's going to do nothing. And with inflation running away, it's a guarantee you're going to be losing money on that money. Right? Even if it took 10 years to get that 20x out of Bitcoin, you're still going to be 100% better off today than you are right now for doing nothing, right? So now that's not complicated. Right? I just explained that in I think less than 30 seconds. So right there, you just learned a little lesson because you stuck it in there for another 30 seconds to listen to me, and that should make perfect sense to you. Okay, but if you want to bring that lifetime, the figure. Okay, let me back up a little bit here because I want to follow through in that thread because it's an important one. If you want to take that lifetime that figure of over the course of the life, you just get 2x to 3x on your money in perpetuity. In crypto, this is actually pretty easy. 2x to 3x. If you can get that in perpetuity, in crypto, that is actually pretty easy.
Where? That's what the audience is saying. Where? How? How?
Send me $10, Rob, and I'll fill you in.
That's it. Easy.
For the rest of you, just join the Crypto Cartel.
Easy, even easier, for free.
So crypto represents the biggest opportunity of our generation. There's really no excuse why you are not taking advantage of it. Nothing. Look, we all know the figures, right? Nothing in human history. And I don't know how many times you can say this to the poor people, Rob, but it's important to drive it home. Again, nothing in human history has had a faster uptake ever than other than crypto. And if you're right, faster than the internet. This is the fastest adopted technology in the history of mankind.
Yeah, it's incredible. You said something. I just want to pull on a little thread before we close this one out and throw to the conclusion. Is you said taking 5% of your net worth and putting it into Bitcoin and getting a 20x over 5 years equals 100% more than what you got today, right? Even if that takes 10 years, you'd be doing pretty well. You'd be hard pressed finding anything else out there that can do that for you. Like you just can't. I couldn't buy a basket of stocks and have that happen to me over a 3 to 5 year period. I couldn't buy a basket of stocks and have that happen to me over a 10-year period. I just don't see how that could happen. Somebody who's what's a good Wall Street trader get for a retail customer on an annual basis? Do they get 10%, 20%, 15, 30%? What do they get?
Oh, well, if probably around 5 to 7%. If you make 10%, you are you're
a god.
Yeah, well, at 20% you're a god. I was trying to look for the other way.
Yeah.
So at 10% you're a demigod. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's just such a different animal. Yeah. And you and I right now, if we go to search a bunch of DeFi sites looking for a 20% return, APR, meaning it's not compounding, we probably won't be able to find it. Probably the smallest percentage I could find is probably somewhere around 39 or 40% as an APR. But then I find these APYs, which means it's compounding the interest that I'm getting out of these things. You know, I can see something as simple as over at PancakeSwap, I can get 70 odd percent APY. So when you put your $1,000 in their calculator over there, you're getting over a 5-year period, it turns into $16,000 or $17,000. But you are speculating, right? You're speculating on the price of cake going up or staying where it is on today's prices. And if the price crashes, it's going to go the other way. But either way, you're getting that high APY. And you can do these things where you don't speculate on price. You can do these things with stable coins. So you can do it with USDT, USDC, you can do it with DAI, you can do it with OHM. There's a bunch of things that you can do it with which eliminate the directional risk. And am I getting a 2 or a 3x on my money when I do that? Well, if I'm getting a 50% return on my money, so I can go to Cake DeFi right now and get a 59% return on my USDT, am I getting a 2x return on my money? Well, not this year, but next year I will. Double my money because I got a 50%, put 1,000 in there, I'll have $1,500 by the end of the year. Not bad. Put 1,000 in, I'll have $2,000 at the end of 2 years. So if I do that over a period of 10 years, what does that turn into? Well, it grows pretty steadily. And that $1,000 that's sitting in your bank right now is not doing anything other than getting chomped away by inflation. So you also need to be careful of that because if you swap your USD in your bank account for USDT, one for wanting it, inflation is going to bite you there as well. So that's another consideration to look at as well, and the way to do those assets.
You know, I want to butt in one more thing here, and you can edit this out if it's going to. But
I'm definitely leaving it in when you're going to use that as a preface.
I want to throw in one last point about this whole what Rob just mentioned is that if you listen to our last podcast, podcast number 3, and if you haven't, please do. But we made a very strong point about how neither of us want to lose any money in anything. Now, we understand that there are risks involved in any one project might not work. Okay, we get that. But we have a strategy set up where the monies that we do put at risk are the proceeds from recurring income that we're getting from other projects. One in particular that Rob and I are in. So we're not actually, I don't know about you, Rob, but I'm never actually putting my own money at risk. The money I put into other projects are proceeds from my recurring income.
It doesn't make it any less important, but no, I'm not dipping into my pocket or getting my credit card out to spend money out of my physical bank account to get into a new deal. I'm getting that money from the deal that I'm in, and that's how I use that recurring income to do that. So I don't know about you, but there's a percentage of what I'm doing for capital appreciation to grow the size of that holding so I can get more recurring income from it, but then also using the recurring income to speculate on other more high risk projects as well. So not all of them are going to work.
No.
And I think the way that I look at diversification inside of crypto is by having more opportunities. So instead of being in 5 opportunities, be in 10 opportunities. And then the way you give yourself a bigger opportunity is to add to those positions. Instead of having $1,000 in 10 opportunities, have $5,000 in 10 opportunities. And then you're going to create more for yourself. And then if there's a bit more volatility going on in the market, but I've removed directional risk, it doesn't matter, I'm winning over here. I might not win as fast because I'm not getting the upside and the downside of the volatility long and short, because I'm not trying to do that. But over a period of time, that boring dollar cost average thing comes into play and I actually win. And that's what I'm trying to do. That aligns with what I'm trying to do. And it's about preserving, as you say, it's preserving your capital, and it's about growing your cash flow, because cash flow is what matters, because you're living here and now. There's no good me having $9 million worth of crypto that I can't access or I can't use because it's tied up or it's locked up or I just can't access it. Doesn't mean anything to me. Might as well not have it. I'd rather have the cash flow and the opportunity that cash flow creates for me with more deals, more opportunities, more cash flow.
But I lied. There is one more thing I want to say. Okay, so and factor in that with inflation now getting out of control.
Oh yeah.
If you do nothing, you are losing buying power every day that goes by. So you have to get yield. You have to, unfortunately, any money you have sitting in the bank, you might think that you're doing the responsible thing, that you're doing the conservative thing. When actually what you're doing is you're guaranteeing yourself a loss on those monies. Your buying power.
Yep.
Anyways.
Absolutely. I'm going to, I want to do a podcast with you about inflation and what happens there, because it's a very topical thing at the moment. I've finished an audiobook called When Money Dies, and it talks about what happened in Germany after World War One. And the Germans had to pay reparations to France, to England, to the United States, and all the countries around them after the war, right? Because they lost the war, they signed the armistice. That's what happened. And what they did is they just printed money.
Yep.
And it's pretty hard to understand the scale of destruction that caused in their society. And I've been listening to this audiobook for the last week in every day on my morning walk, and it's pretty depressing. And just hearing about how many times a pound of butter has gone up in price. A pound of butter started down here at 60 cents, and it ended up here at like $500 in today's terms. Just ridiculous amounts. And there was one clever little story that I'll share here that'll really drive that point home. So during those hard economic times, there's a lot of people who are really clever and really creative. So because the value of the dollar has been printed into oblivion and it's not really worth anything, if I want to buy a can of Coke or a bottle of water, I want to buy something simple, the amount of currency that I need to actually get to that is just ridiculous. And so there's some very enterprising people in these times. And there's one story in that book that talks about a guy he's a farmer, and he owes about 400,000 marks on his property. That's how much his mortgage is. And he looks at what he's got for sale, and he's like, well, 10 bags of potatoes over there are worth like 4 million marks. So he goes to market, sells it at the current rate, comes back to the bank and goes, how much do I owe my home loan again? Gives him the money and cashes in like that, right? So, and there's a bunch of stories in that book as well where the French come across the border and they buy up all these shops and they buy the land, they buy all of these things. And there's one particular story where an American guy comes across the border into Germany with his French mates, and he's got a dollar bill, and him and a dozen of his mates, they go out, they eat dinner, they go to a nightclub, they go to a bar, and all the bars are closed. There's nowhere else to go. They get in a taxi to go back home, and they've still got change out of their $1 bill. And when you look at it, if you put it in today's terms, you think maybe that's $100 bill is like that, but $100 bill couldn't take 12 people out today. I took my missus out for a fancy dinner the other night, and it was $300. Like, what the hell? It's like so expensive for 3 people. $100 per person is what it was. There was 3 of us, me, my missus, and my daughter, that sort of thing. But all of that historical stuff aside, I was scrolling through my YouTube feed as I do every day, and I saw a Fox News report about inflation in the US. And the first thing that they were talking about is how it actually is starting to impact real people in the real world there in the States. And one thing that I recall from all the videos that I've watched this week was this guy had to pay $8 for a bottle of water in Dallas. And, normally a bottle of water is what, $2, $3, maybe $4 at most. And he's paid $8 for it, for a bottle of water, for something you can get out of the tap for free. Yeah, it's just absolutely insane, and that really, yeah, literally, and making a huge difference to people's lives. And when you learn about inflation and you learn about what actually happens, is that people, the money that they've got, they don't want to hold on to. They want to offload that money straight away. And the velocity of that moving through society is so quick. So nobody actually has any wealth remaining because they're trying to get rid of it to try and buy goods and services that are tradable, that are barterable, that they can do something with. And it's a really scary situation when this is happening, when you listen to these stories. And we're staring down the barrel of that right now. It's the end of the fiat system. It's the end of the economic system as we know it.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into it here, but pretty soon we're going to also have to talk about the phenomenon of what's called a bail-in. We all know the term bailout.
Oh, the bailout. The opposite of the bailout is the bail-in, right?
Yeah,
That's
the
the name.
bail-in.
The name of the game is bailout, but the actual game is bail-in, is what they actually do, isn't it?
We have to talk about that sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening as well, ladies and gentlemen. After I finished that book, I picked up another one from Ray Dalio. His latest book, it's called Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. It actually helped me a huge amount, and I'll close out this segment with this little sentiment because I think it's really important. We're living through some really uncertain times, and uncertain times in the economy, uncertain times socially, with the left fighting the right and the right fighting the left and everybody shouting each other down, with no one really knows what's happening with this so-called virus that's out in the world. There's just uncertainty abounds all of us. And it seems like a paradox that the stock market is going to the moon. Crypto is kind of in a bit of a doldrum at the moment. No one really knows what's going on with all of this stuff. And you think of this huge uncertainty that you feel, and you could be forgiven for being a little bit worried or maybe a bit fearful or a bit scared because we don't know what's going to happen. And that's the economic uncertainty that you're feeling by feeling a little bit scared. And Ray Dalio does a really good job in that book of rewinding the clock and using our time machine to take you back in time to show you that all of these things have happened before. And he does that. So his company is called Bridgewater Capital, one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, of course. And he does that to say, where are we in the cycle so he can make better decisions about what's coming up for his investors. So where are we in the cycle? And you'll see that we reside a recent time in history that we all know is in 1929, the stock market crashed, and then the lead up to World War II and the end of World War II, and then there's economic boom times. So imagine the uncertainty that these poor people faced after the stock market crashed. Huge. So that happened to us in 2008, particularly you guys there in the States. And the hangover of that has been to now, which is the economy's been on life support because they've just been printing money to keep it on life support. And now it's coming to an end. Inflation's going to take over, which is going to completely decimate the US dollar if they don't do something about that, and something changes there quickly. It's going to collapse the US dollar. All of that money will come home to roost there in the States, and it's going to get really, really nasty really, really quickly. And that's the uncertainty that's there. But all of this has happened before.
You know, the historical fact is every fiat currency ever in the history of mankind has failed.
Mm. And that right there, when I was listening to Ray Dalio talk about that just in the first couple of chapters that I've listened to, it actually, I took a bit of solace in it. And because I've been feeling bad for feeling a little bit fearful and have uncertainty about it. And why do I feel fearful around the uncertainty of the economic future? It's because I'm out of control and I don't feel like I can control it. But when you look back at history, people have navigated tough times before.
Yeah.
You've navigated tough times before. I have as well. We actually all have. And so the level of uncertainty that you feel and face is actually in your mind because you've actually faced tougher times than these before. This is pretty easy compared to what you've been through. You know, I know so many people that have suffered physical tragedies in their family, losing loved ones and all of those sorts of things. And I've never really had to deal with any of that sort of stuff. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've got good health, got a good family. No one's dropping dead around me or anything like that. But so many other people have struggled through those things. So what we're going through, these hard, tumultuous social and economic times, actually, we've been through it all before and it's not so bad. It's not too bad. Well, Ed, it feels so good to be sharing these podcasts with you, mate, and with our audience. I really enjoy these conversations with you. We always have, as you say, a long conversation when we meet together. It's the meeting of the minds, and I'm so glad that we're finally pressing the record button and bringing this to the world. I want to sum it up today by saying that crypto might seem like just another investment opportunity for people that are watching this and listening to this, but crypto is a war. In fact, we did a podcast on that very topic. So I'll make sure that I share the link with that in the top right here, and you could scroll down and you can see that as well. I really encourage you to have a look at that. That's a big statement that crypto is a war, but crypto is a war because it's the alternative to the existing financial system, and it's shaking up the world as we know it, and it's changing the world as we know it. And I think it represents the biggest opportunity that we'll ever face in our lifetime. So it's up to you to do something about this. Look, the cabal that controls us is trying to control crypto as well. They're trying to regulate it. They're trying to make it irrelevant. But what they can't do is they can't regulate human beings, and they can't make humans irrelevant. So no matter how hard they try, no matter what they throw at us, I don't believe that they're actually going to win this war. They might be able to do those things to make it, to regulate it and to make it irrelevant in certain countries of the world, but I don't think that they can make it irrelevant and regulated in all countries of the world. And we're starting to see mass adoption of it. We're starting to see countries use crypto as their reserve currency. El Salvador using Bitcoin, Myanmar using USDC, I believe. I saw a report earlier in the week, as their reserve currency, because their currency is completely decimated. Governments are corrupt, and the governments that recognize that they're corrupt are leaning into crypto. And they're corrupt because they're working hand in glove with the banks who control absolutely everything we do. That is the cabal, the banking system and the finance system and the governments. They're all in cahoots together. Crypto is your out, folks. Crypto is the out for all of us. Don't come crying to me and Ed saying, how do I get into crypto and how do I do this when inflation is at 35% a month for the next 2 years and the banking system's collapsed and the housing market's in the toilet and gold's at $10,000. The time to act is now. The time to get into gold, the time to get into crypto, the time to diversify your finances and your resources is now. And if you want to learn more about how Ed and I do that, come and join us over in the Crypto Cartel. Over to you, Ed. What have you got to sum it up today, mate?
Yeah, well, Rob, we do have a lot to be thankful for. Life is pretty good, despite the evil cabal, the stupid leaders, and the really corrupt banks. I've still got a pocket full of money. I got a roof over my head. I've got a family that loves me and who I love. So I want to remind people that even though crypto is ground zero for the world war of the 2020s, you can switch off the media. Okay, you can switch off your social media and remember the things that really matter. As we go into the Christmas season here, please try to turn off your tough circumstance that we find ourselves in, and just remember that you're in control of your future. You're in control of your finances, and only you are in control of your destiny. Not the government, not the banks, not circumstance. You're in charge. It's a you problem. Okay, so so that's all I really wanted to say coming into the end here, Rob. Keep your friends and family close because the next few years, they could be pretty rough. But I truly believe that if you're in crypto now, you're going to be on the right side of history.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a really nice way to round it out, and some lovely sentiments there as well. You got to remember what's important. We talk about a lot of doom and gloom stuff here on this podcast because it kind of goes hand in hand, and that's because crypto is a war, and war is an unpleasant thing. But the reality is we're all doing pretty well. We're doing okay, despite the political uncertainty, the economic uncertainty, the social unrest that we all faced in the countries that we're in. I don't think that's very different to all of the Western countries. We're still okay. There's still, as you say, a roof over our head. There's people who love us. There's people that we love, and everything's going to be okay. And I'm so glad that you shared that and reminded us, Ed. That's great. Mate, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can reach me, of course, at ed@thecryptocartel.io or on my YouTube channel called Hey Ed. Just do a search for Hey Ed. Or over at the Crypto Cartel itself, of course. I'm pretty active there. And so I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. How about you, Rob?
Excellent. Just Rob at thecryptocartel.io or over at the cartel itself. And you can connect with me on Instagram as well at rob.bruss77. As always, ladies and gentlemen, all of the links to anything that we talked about in the show are right down below in the show notes. So please scroll down and have a check us there so you won't have to go digging around in Google for any of that stuff. If you've got a question or some feedback for the show, you can reach out to Ed or myself and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. And if you're listening to this show as a podcast, please don't forget to give us a little review over on Apple Podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to scroll down and subscribe and hit the like button there as well. Ed and I would be eternally grateful for that. Well, that wraps it up for the show, mate. Do you have a parting comment or a parting quote for us today, Ed?
I sure do. Okay. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Man, you're leaving us with like heavy wisdom at the last podcast of the year. Well done. Well said, mate. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you again in the new year. It's bye for now.
Yeah, thank God.